The sand was still warm beneath her feet as Olivia watched him from a distance. A father, alone with his daughter, building a sandcastle as the sun dipped toward the horizon. She'd judged him harshly just moments before, a quick assumption about another absent mother, another man who couldn't commit. But then she heard his reply to his little girl's innocent question, and everything changed. If you've ever had your perspective completely transformed in a single moment, this story might just change yours too. Stay with me until the end, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that remind us why we should never judge a book by its cover. Olivia Matthews had always prided herself on being a good judge of character. At 32, she'd built a successful career as a family therapist, helping couples navigate the treacherous waters of relationships and parenting. She believed she could read people like open books, categorizing them neatly into boxes based on first impressions. It was a skill that had served her well professionally, but on a personal level, it had left her isolated, guarded, and perpetually single. The beach had always been her sanctuary. Every Friday evening after a long week of listening to other people's problems, she would drive to Crescent Bay, find a quiet spot away from the crowds, and lose herself in the rhythm of the waves. It was her ritual, her way of washing away the emotional residue that clung to her after days of absorbing other people's pain. This particular Friday had been especially draining. 3 couples on the brink of divorce, a teenager refusing to speak to her parents, and a final session with a family torn apart by addiction. By the time she reached the beach, the sun was already beginning its descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. Perfect timing. The families with young children would be packing up, leaving the beach to the evening stragglers like herself. Olivia spread her blanket on the sand, kicked off her sandals, and pulled out her dog-eared copy of a psychology journal. But before she could immerse herself in the latest research on attachment theory, a high-pitched squeal of delight caught her attention. About 20 yards away, a little girl, no more than 5 or 6, was jumping up and down beside what appeared to be the beginnings of an elaborate sandcastle. Next to her stood a man, presumably her father, his jeans rolled up to his knees, t-shirt slightly damp and clinging to his broad shoulders. He was laughing, his head thrown back in genuine amusement at his daughter's excitement. Olivia found herself watching them, her journal forgotten on her lap. The man was handsome in a rugged, unpolished way. Dark hair that curled slightly at the ends, a shadow of stubble along his jaw, and when he smiled at his daughter, deep creases formed at the corners of his eyes. But it wasn't his appearance that held her attention, it was the way he interacted with his child. He was fully present. No phone in hand, no distracted glances toward other beachgoers. His entire world seemed to revolve around this little girl with wild curls and a gap-toothed smile. Olivia had seen enough absent fathers in her practice to recognize when a man was genuinely engaged in parenting. "Daddy, can we make it bigger than last time?" the little girl asked, her voice carrying on the evening breeze. "As big as you want, Lilybug," he replied, already digging deeper into the wet sand. Olivia smiled despite herself. Then, almost immediately, the professional in her began to analyze. Single dad, she thought. No wedding ring. No mention of a mother. Probably divorced. Probably weekend custody. Probably trying to make up for lost time with elaborate sandcastles and beach outings. She'd seen it countless times in her office, men who became weekend warriors of fatherhood after separation, showering their children with gifts and experiences to compensate for their absence during the week. It was a pattern, predictable and somewhat sad. The little girl, Lily, was now decorating the castle walls with shells she collected from the shoreline, carefully placing each one with the serious concentration only children can muster for such tasks. Her father was sculpting a moat, his large hands surprisingly delicate as they shaped the sand. "Do you think Mommy can see our castle from heaven?" Lily asked suddenly, her voice dropping to a near whisper. Olivia froze. The question hung in the air, suspended between father and daughter like a fragile bubble. She watched the man's shoulders tense, his hands stilling in the sand. For a moment, he seemed unable to respond, and Olivia felt like an intruder witnessing a deeply private moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady but soft. "I think Mommy can see everything you do, Lilybug. And I think she's so proud of you. Not just for this amazing castle, but for being brave and kind and strong every single day." Lily nodded solemnly, accepting his answer with the simple faith of childhood. "I think she'd like the pink shells best," she decided, placing another one carefully on the highest tower. "I think you're right," he agreed. She always did love pink. Olivia felt a lump forming in her throat. Not divorced. Widowed. This wasn't a weekend dad trying to buy his daughter's affection. This was a man raising his child alone because there was no other choice. A man keeping the memory of her mother alive while somehow finding the strength to build sandcastles and smile at his daughter's delight. In that moment, all her neat categorizations crumbled like dry sand. She had judged him so quickly, so confidently, and she had been completely wrong. As if sensing her gaze, the man looked up suddenly, his eyes meeting hers across the beach. Embarrassed at being caught staring, Olivia quickly looked down at her journal, pretending to be absorbed in its pages. But the words swam before her eyes, meaningless black marks on white paper. When she dared to look up again, father and daughter had returned to their castle building, but something had shifted in Olivia's perception. She found herself wondering about their story. How long had the mother been gone? How did he explain death to a child so young? Did he have support, parents, siblings, friends, or was he navigating this journey entirely alone? The questions piled up like the sand Lily was now patting into place for a second tower. Olivia, who spent her days asking questions and analyzing answers, suddenly felt the inadequacy of her professional detachment. This wasn't a case study. This was life, messy, painful, beautiful life, playing out on a beach as the sun set. Almost without realizing it, Olivia found herself gathering her things and walking toward them. She had no plan, no prepared speech, just an inexplicable urge to connect, to acknowledge what she had witnessed, to somehow make amends for her silent judgment. "That's quite a castle," she said as she approached, her voice sounding unnaturally loud to her own ears. Lily looked up, beaming with pride. "It's for the mermaid princess," she explained seriously. "She needs somewhere safe to sleep when she comes to visit the human world." "Well, I think any mermaid princess would be lucky to stay here," Olivia replied, crouching down to admire the intricate details. "I especially like these shells. They make perfect decorations. My daddy helped me find the best ones," Lily said, glancing adoringly at her father. The man stood up, brushing sand from his hands. "I'm just the shell collector." "She's the architect," he said with a self-deprecating smile. "I'm Jack, by the way. And this is Lily." "Olivia," she replied, extending her hand. His grip was firm, his palm rough with calluses. "Working hands. You two come here often?" "Every Friday," Jack said. "It's our tradition. End the week with sand between our toes and salt in our hair." "Mine too," Olivia admitted, surprised by the coincidence. "Though I usually just read and watch the sunset." "The best kind of therapy," Jack nodded toward her journal. "Are you a student?" Olivia laughed. "Not for many years. I'm actually a therapist myself. Family counseling." Something flickered across Jack's face, interest, perhaps, or wariness. People often had one of two reactions when she revealed her profession: they either wanted free advice or they feared being analyzed. "That must be challenging work," he said finally. "It can be," she acknowledged. "But rewarding too. Helping families find their way through difficult times." She trailed off, suddenly aware of the potential insensitivity of her words given what she had overheard. But Jack didn't seem offended. "I can imagine," he said simply. Then, glancing at his daughter who was now adding a flag made from a stick and a leaf to the top of her castle, he added, sometimes we all need a little help finding our way. There was no self-pity in his voice, just a quiet acknowledgement of a universal truth. Olivia felt something shift inside her, a wall beginning to crumble. "Daddy, I'm hungry," Lily announced, abandoning her architectural pursuits. "Can we have our picnic now?" "Sure thing, Lilybug," Jack replied, reaching for a small cooler partially buried in the sand beside their beach bag. He glanced at Olivia. "We always have more than enough. You're welcome to join us, if you'd like." The invitation surprised her. In all her Friday beach visits, she had never shared her sanctuary with anyone else. Her instinct was to politely decline, to retreat to her blanket and her solitude. But something, perhaps the genuine warmth in Jack's eyes or the eager nod of Lily's curly head, made her hesitate. "I wouldn't want to intrude on your father-daughter time," she said, offering him an easy out. "You wouldn't be," Jack assured her. "Besides, Lily loves an audience for her stories, don't you, Bug?" Lily nodded enthusiastically. "I can tell you about the time I saw a real dolphin. And about my school play where I was a tree but I had the most important lines." Olivia found herself smiling at the child's enthusiasm. "Well, when you put it that way, how can I refuse? Let me just grab my things." As she walked back to collect her blanket and bag, Olivia felt a strange lightness in her chest. For years, she had kept people at a professional distance, analyzing rather than connecting. But something about Jack's simple dignity and Lily's uninhibited joy had bypassed her usual defenses. The impromptu picnic was simple: peanut butter and jelly sandwiches cut into star shapes, apple slices, cheese sticks, and cookies that Jack admitted with a sheepish grin were store-bought but doctored up with extra chocolate chips pressed into the top. "Mommy used to make the best cookies," Lily informed Olivia as she bit into one. "But Daddy's are good too, even if they come from a package." "I'm sure they are," Olivia agreed, accepting one with genuine appreciation. Sometimes the best things are the ones made with love, no matter where they start out. Jack's eyes met hers over Lily's head, a look of gratitude passing between them. It was clear that navigating these moments, the casual mentions of her mother, the comparisons, the memories, was a daily challenge. As promised, Lily dominated the conversation with stories about school, her best friend Emma who had a pet turtle, and her upcoming ballet recital. Jack occasionally interjected with gentle corrections or prompts, but mostly he just watched his daughter with undisguised adoration. "And what about you?" Olivia asked Jack during a rare pause in Lily's narrative. "What do you do when you're not building sandcastles and making star-shaped sandwiches?" "I'm a carpenter," he replied. "I have my own small business. Custom furniture, mostly. It allows me to set my own hours, be there for school pickups and sick days." "He makes the prettiest tables and chairs," Lily chimed in. "People pay lots of money for them because they're special." Jack laughed, ruffling her hair. "Well, they pay enough to keep us in peanut butter and jelly, that's for sure." There was no pretension in his manner, no attempt to impress. Just a man who had found a way to balance work and single parenthood, who took pride in creating beautiful things with his hands. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the sand, Lily's energy finally began to wane. She curled up on their beach blanket, her head in her father's lap, eyes growing heavy as the day's excitement caught up with her. "I should probably get her home," Jack said softly, stroking his daughter's wild curls. "Bath time and bed await." Olivia nodded, gathering the remnants of their picnic. "Of course. Thank you for sharing your Friday tradition with me. It was nice." The word seemed inadequate for the unexpected warmth of the evening, but it was all she could manage. "It was," Jack agreed. He hesitated, then added, "We're here every Friday, weather permitting. If you ever want company with your sunset watching." The invitation hung between them, casual yet somehow significant. Olivia found herself nodding before she could overthink it. "I'd like that." As she helped Jack pack up their belongings, careful not to disturb the now sleeping Lily, Olivia realized that something fundamental had changed. The beach had always been her escape from other people's lives, a place to decompress and rebuild her emotional walls. Now, it had become something else, a place of connection. Jack gently lifted Lily into his arms, her small body limp with sleep, head nestled against his shoulder. "I've got the rest," Olivia assured him, picking up the cooler and beach bag. They walked together to the parking lot in comfortable silence, the only sound the distant crash of waves and the soft whisper of Lily's breathing. At Jack's SUV, Olivia watched as he carefully secured his daughter in her booster seat, tucking a small blanket around her with practiced ease. "Thank you for your help," he said, turning to take the bags from Olivia. "And for your company." "Thank you for the invitation," she replied. "And for..." She paused, unsure how to express what she was feeling. "For reminding me not to make assumptions." Jack tilted his head questioningly. "I'm afraid I did what I tell my clients not to do," Olivia admitted. "I saw you too and immediately thought I knew your story. Single dad, weekend custody." She trailed off, embarrassed. But Jack didn't seem offended. "It's human nature to categorize," he said simply. "We all do it. The important thing is being willing to revise those categories when new information comes along." His words, so free of judgment, made Olivia's throat tighten unexpectedly. "Well, I'm revising mine," she managed to say. Jack smiled, the creases deepening around his eyes. "Good. Because I'd hate to be filed away as just another weekend dad when I'm hoping to see you again next Friday." The directness of his statement caught Olivia off guard. In her professional life, she was used to reading between lines, interpreting hidden meanings. But there was nothing hidden in Jack's expression, just honest interest and perhaps a touch of vulnerability. "Same time, same sandcastle?" she asked, finding her voice. "Count on it," he replied. "Though I can't promise the architectural design. That's entirely up to Lily's imagination. I wouldn't have it any other way." As she walked to her own car, Olivia felt a strange mixture of emotions, a lightness she hadn't experienced in years, coupled with a nervous flutter in her stomach. For so long, she had kept people at arm's length, analyzing rather than participating. It was safer that way, less messy. But safety and distance had also meant loneliness. Driving home, with the taste of store-bought cookies still sweet on her tongue, Olivia realized that one simple reply, a father's honest answer to his daughter's innocent question, had cracked open something inside her. A willingness to see beyond her first impressions. A desire to connect rather than categorize. The following Friday couldn't come soon enough. And it didn't. The week dragged by, each therapy session seeming longer than usual, each client's problem more complex. Olivia found her thoughts drifting to the beach, to Jack's kind eyes and Lily's gap-toothed smile. She caught herself wondering what kind of furniture Jack created, imagining his strong hands shaping with the way they had shaped sand. She wondered about Lily's mother, how long she had been gone, what she had been like, how Jack had managed in the aftermath of her loss. By Friday afternoon, Olivia was practically vibrating with anticipation. She left her office early, stopped at home to change into casual clothes, and headed to the beach with a small cooler of her own. Inside were homemade chocolate chip cookies, her grandmother's recipe, and a bottle of wine. Too much? Not enough? She had no idea what the protocol was for beach picnics with widowed carpenters and their precocious daughters. When she arrived at Crescent Bay, the beach was more crowded than usual. A perfect late summer day had drawn families and couples to the shore. Olivia scanned the sand anxiously, looking for Jack's broad shoulders and Lily's wild curls. They